No changes? I don't know if you want, I can show you all the photographs of the neighborhood, but I think you've already seen it. Yeah. Do you want me to show anything? I don't. If I need.
We can open the public hearing.
Yeah, this is,
Oh, yeah, yeah,
I'll put one thing up.
yeah.
The board want to open up a public hearing?
yeah.
Yeah, I move that we open the public hearing. Is there a second? All in favor? Thank you.
Here is the site plan that you would be approving this evening. It's the same as the one that was reviewed previously. There are no changes that have been made.
Okay.
All right, do we have anybody who'd like to speak to this application?
Public hearing is open.
It's open?
Anyone online? Okay.
Thanks for making a profile of the landscape.
Yeah.
Close the
I
public
move we
hearing.
close the public hearing.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
You know me, I'm a man of few words.
You got a resolution for this?
Yes, I have a resolution. Whereas the applicant is seeking final plat approval for the two-lot subdivision. The property is located at 235 Palisade Avenue. Whereas the planning board has, whereas the planning board is familiar with the project site and general vicinity and has reviewed the application in accordance with the subdivision of land of Chapter 300 zoning and land use chapter of the Village Code. Now therefore be it resolved, the planning board of the Village of Dobbs Ferry determines that based upon the findings and reasons set forth below, the application for final plat approval is granted subject to the following conditions. The following conditions refers to the final subdivision plat dated April 28th, 2024. And also the final conditions specifically refer to the applicant must satisfy full satisfaction of the village engineer, all outstanding stormwater maintenance agreement, as well as the final engineer must sign off on any final engineering plans. And then it specifically refers to the deadlines in which the final plat would expire, which shall expire in 90 days unless the filings are required by 300-73. And in accordance with 300-75, the board may extend the time for the filing if on a recorded approved plat, if in the opinion such extension is warranted by the particular circumstance thereof, for not to exceed 2 additional periods of 90 days each.
Public hearing, is anyone have,
No,
No, so
we
we're
have to vote on
we
it.
closed it.
I'm sorry?
Now we're just
We're
voting.
ready for the motion.
Yeah.
We're ready for
No,
the
no, no.
motion to close the public hearing.
Yeah, okay.
I make a motion, we close the public hearing,
Yeah.
and that we
All in favor?
approve the
Resolution.
Resolution.
Vote on the resolution.
Aye.
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 all right. Next one.
Public hearing is done, is closed.
Okay, next item?
So we need to vote on
We
it.
just did.
We just did.
All right.
0 Northfield.
Okay, looks like we've got a public hearing. You have to open up.
Okay. No, we just,
We're probably done with this, right?
yeah,
And now we're gonna open the public hearing for 0 Northfield.
oh, I thought that's what we'd done. All right,
Okay.
so we need to continue the public hearing?
We're gonna open it.
Open the all right, I move we open the public hearing for the planning board for 265 Palisade Avenue.
No, that we just did. Now we're up to 0 Northfield.
Oh, I'm sorry?
Now we're up to 0 Northfield. We finished this one.
No. Well, it's combined planning board, public hearing, and AHRB public meeting agenda.
Yeah,
Yes.
hang on.
Good evening.
So the next item on the agenda is 0 Northfield Avenue. It's a continuation of the public hearing. I move we open the public hearing. Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Do we have somebody to speak to this application?
Nah.
Yes. Christina Griffin, I'm here with Karen Schubeck. We're representing Rashid Sello, the owner of this property. And at the last meeting, we had a presentation of the entire set of drawings, site plan, and all the elevations and materials. And we're here to respond to the two comments that were made. I'm going to let Karen Schubeck describe our response to these comments.
Hi, good evening. I'm Karen Schubeck with Christina Griffin. Last time we met, we're happy to go through the drawings in more detail, but we'll focus on these two issues. Last time we met, the neighbor to the north of the property raised a concern that rock removal as required for the construction of this proposed house would cause cracks in the existing foundation of number 173 to the north over here. And we're noting that number 173 also has an easement on this property in order to access the steps that go to their backyard. And we explained at the time that the easement remains, that all construction and any plantings are outside of the easement. And we discussed the concern about foundation cracking with the owner of our property. And the owner is willing to agree to have what was proposed, which was a visual survey of the existing conditions of the basement and foundation walls of number 173 performed prior to any rock removal. And results of the survey will be documented through photographs, and any notable conditions will be described, in written form. And a written report will be provided to the building inspector of Dobbsbury for their records, and then that could be used in case there's any concerns after construction or rock removal.
Thank you. Thank you. I know that was my primary concern. Anybody else from the board want to comment?
No, I think that's all.
And then there was a second concern we'll address when you
Please
like.
go ahead.
All right, sure. So the second concern, and I don't know if Michael Stein is on from Hudson Engineering. They were going to join, but you've gone through this meeting pretty quickly, so they might not be here yet. So I will speak to it to the best of my abilities. The village engineer requested verification of the downstream drainage pattern of the existing pipe that the system is proposing to tie into, and I believe that would be, I think, this pipe here. I think it was unclear where that pipe is discharging, whether that existing village pipe is discharging on a property or into the system. And so Hudson Engineering discussed this with AI, I believe, and agreed to have the surveyor or contractor perform verification of the existing downstream drainage pattern of this pipe during construction. And if needed, if it's shown that this pipe is not draining correctly, Hudson will revise this portion of the stormwater system for the village's review.
Valerie, can we add that as a condition to the resolution?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Is there anything else you'd like to bring up?
No, thank you. We've made no changes, and we're responding to the comments that were raised, but nothing else to bring up.
Okay, well, this is a public hearing. I know you'd like to speak.
Hi there, Nancy Casey, owner of 177 Northfields. So I just wanted to make you aware that the comments that you made from the last one, you have the address of 173 on your document, and our address is actually 177.
Oh,
So that
My
needs a
apologies,
correction.
sorry. Yeah,
so sorry. We'll
okay.
correct that.
I'll fix that.
And I know I brought it up at the last meeting, but it wasn't, obviously the rock removal was the biggest concern. But also and I'm not an architect, so I don't know, but looking at your plans, the wall in the front of our property, it looks like you're going to actually remove part of that as part of your landscaping, I don't know what. So I wanted to know what the plan would be in terms of how that will affect our wall, because it's all connected as well.
Maybe you
Christina,
can
talk to
tell
that?
us which wall you're talking about. Is that the one that is close to the curb?
Yeah,
Close
to the
to-
driveway, yeah. So it goes all the way down, but it's technically, when you look at it, it looks like it's all part of our wall, but I know that it goes over into the 0 Northfield property. So it just looked as if you were doing something with that. Maybe I'm wrong in the
No,
way I'm reading it.
actually, we're showing it existing to remain.
No, not that one in the front
Oh,
on
that little
Northfield.
one
This,
No, the one on Northfield,
No,
this one.
like
on,
on the
I'm right at
street.
the front of the property.
Yep, the very
Yes.
front,
No,
more towards Northfield.
Yeah.
if we're looking at the site plan and there is an existing retaining wall that ends a few feet, like 5 feet or so from the driveway and then runs parallel to the curb near Northfield. And we're planning to keep that in place.
Okay, so that won't,
Not this one here. I see this
Okay.
one. Yeah.
Yes.
yes.
There's no
Okay.
plan to remove that at this point in
Okay.
time. That's part of our
Okay, great.
proposal.
And then just timeline of the project, just to get an idea, because I know that there were no noise restrictions, and my husband does work from home, so all things considered in terms of noise and productivity.
I think there are noise restrictions in terms of work hours, you know, so we would
Which are his
abide
work
by those
hours.
noise restrictions of the work, right?
No, I understand that, but since they're the same work hours.
Oh, I
do the
see.
timeline for the project?
We can get back to you. I mean, the first step here is to get, you know, the approvals that we're seeking for the site plan and then to develop construction documents for the project and get a building permit approval. So, you know, the timeline is dependent on some items that are out of our control and developing the drawings with the owner.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak to this application?
no one else?
Anybody online? No? I move we close the public hearing. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second,
All in favor?
all in
Aye.
favor?
Aye.
Valerie, if you.
Yes, I have a
resolution?
resolution. I have two resolutions. The first will be the site plan resolution, whereas the applicant is seeking site plan approval to construct a new one-family residence on a vacant lot. The property is located at 175 Northfield Avenue. Whereas the planning board conducted a duly noticed public hearing on August 1st, and it was concluded on August 1st, during which time all those wishing to be heard were given the opportunities to be heard. Now therefore being resolved, the planning board of the Village of Dobbs Ferry determines that based upon the findings and reasoning set forth below, the application for site plan approval is granted subject to the following. It refers to the architectural plans dated June 26, 2024, and 7 civil engineering plans last revised June 11th, 2024. The following conditions must be met before the planning board chair may sign the final site plans. And so it specifically refers to that the applicant must address the full satisfaction of the village engineer, all outstanding stormwater and stormwater maintenance. The applicant shall pay an outstanding consultant review and legal fees in connection with the planning board and review of this application. And then additional conditions associated with this particular project before building permit is issued is the applicant agrees to conduct a visual survey of the existing conditions of the basement and foundation walls of 177 Northfield Avenue and provide a written report of such survey, including photographs and any notable conditions to the village building inspector. And the applicant agrees to have the surveyor or have a surveyor or a contractor perform verifications of the existing downstream drainage patterns during construction, and if needed, the applicant will revise the design of this portion of the stormwater system for the village's engineer's review.
I make the motion. Do we have a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Great, thank you so much. Good night.
The next item on the agenda is 49 Bellwood Avenue, the public hearing for proposed additions and exterior alterations to an existing resident. This is a public hearing. I might move that we open it. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Patty, are you going to present?
I am.
All right.
Good try at least.
Just, one quick thing on the last one, the ARB.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, so just vote, I mean, it's basically the same resolution
Yes.
that I've read before and referring to the architectural plans.
Okay, I make the motion for the AHRB.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Sorry about that. Go ahead, Patty.
So again, Patty Steinschneider, Gotham Design, working for the Scoot O'Connor's residents at 49 Bellwood. This is a fairly simple project, I think, but I can always be surprised. It fits in with the whole character of that neighborhood. It's one of those houses that were built many years ago. With all those others, it fits in, really well. It's very consistent with its neighborhood. It's not trying to do anything that's too challenging. I don't think we need to talk about the survey. Let me get to a site plan. I can move this thing. Okay. This is the existing site plan. Basically, what you've got is a driveway coming in on the right to a basement that's below the house, and a porch and entrance that's in the center, and then a little walkway that comes around to the side where there's a side entrance. They've got a very nice backyard. Right now, there's a terrace there. We want to change that to be something that's a little bit nicer, hopefully, by building more of an entrance on the side of the house, the north side, which is next to the Capshaws. They came, we got variances for this. They came, they were happy with what we were doing, or at least not unhappy, perhaps. And in the back, we're proposing a terrace off the back with a first floor screen porch, and then an addition on the second floor that'll enable one of the bedrooms to be enlarged to be a real master suite. And the two existing bathrooms that are very small, it'll enable those to be enlarged a little bit. We comply with all of the conditions that we got from the zoning board in terms of setbacks. I don't think you really want me to go through that stuff, setbacks and stuff. We have put together a drainage plan, site protection plan, all those kinds of things. One of the things I believe that Anthony noted at the last meeting was he didn't have a problem with our concept that we weren't going to start digging a big hole in the backyard to test the perk until we start with an excavator. But he did ask me to add some information, which we did, which basically describes the types of soil. We have dug in this neighborhood before. It's not great, but it's not bad. It's a good perk. And the worst that would happen is instead of the 3 Cultex that we're proposing, which is actually twice the capacity that's necessary to hold it with no perk, it would probably go down to 2 and it would work fine. But that'll be determined by the engineers at the right time. And let's see, I don't think you need the floor plans. Let's get to where you can actually see something what the house looks like. Here's the front, what you see on the left-hand side of the right, this is before and after elevations. On the left-hand side of that, you see the porch that's poking out for the entrance to the family entry. And on the back, you've got the screen porch on the left, the terrace on the right, the expanded master bedroom on the second floor, and the expanded bathrooms next to it, which changes the roof lines in the back. But those roof lines sit in well, I think, with the character of the existing house. Sections you don't need. I don't know if you want to go through details. I know you're now the AHRB. Laura's shaking her head, I think, negative, so I'll move on with that. And we should, if I can get this to work, be able to show some actual, what this house kind of looks like. So these are 2 renderings in the back, showing kind of looking northwest in the top, looking southwest in the bottom, the screen porch, the expanded bedroom. The shutters, I think that was a comment at the last meeting. The shutters are what are on the house now, which we found really interesting, and we were very surprised to find that they're regularly, we can buy them online. They're very accessible. So I think it's a little bit different. It's fun to play with that. So I think that'll be nice. We've got brackets supporting pieces of it that'll kind of show the character. The porch that's on the house right now has that, so we're kind of keeping that look. One thing that came up was, how this zoning worked, if you're concerned about any of that. It used to be 8 feet, then they changed the side yard to 10 feet. The house was built with 12 feet. We're putting 4 feet on, so we'll be 8 feet. So we got a variance for the 2 feet. Walkway stays the same, coming around the side. And one of the things we did is we analyzed the neighborhood. And this is very common, 8-foot down to actually 3-foot side yards in the neighborhood with side entrances, which I think, it's kind of the character of this neighborhood. Here's the pictures of the existing house. The hedges kind of block the view, but here what we did is we just kind of walked the street, and we took photos of all the other houses. And one of the things we noticed is that, those side entrances are consistent, and often right up almost to the property line. So I don't think that should be a concern with any of this. I'd say maybe a third to half of the properties in the neighborhood have these on the side. Going around the house, seeing how simple it is. It'll be a little bit less simple in the back, but I think it'll work nicely. Actually, the only tree that we're affecting in this is the tree that's right off the corner. We want to keep that tree, but what we're going to need to do is cut that one limb. So I've had an arborist take a look at that. He doesn't see any problem as long as it's done properly by an arborist. This kind of going around the house, just it's kind of what you've already seen. I don't know if you have any questions about it. And then just the sketches that we initially did, kind of showing what the massing for this, how it would tie in the roofs and fit in nicely with the character of the existing place, which I think is then maybe the end. Any questions?
No questions.
I'm fine with it.
I assume you presented this at the last meeting.
Yes, he did.
I tried to. I didn't get very far. The machine didn't work. And it's not working very well tonight. I don't know what I'm doing wrong.
Well, I
Previous meeting, you asked about the shutters.
no, I didn't actually.
I asked
But-
about the shutters.
Oh, yes, about the shutters.
So what I was gonna say, the punchline is that what I was gonna say is I think it's attractive, the overall design. The thing that I would say I've become most sensitive to is the amount of shadow that is created by the windows in the new construction. And so I guess what I'm wondering is, because it has the effect of making the building kind of look paper thin,
Right.
unsubstantive.
We have a detail that we do on everything.
So I'm looking at that detail, and is that detail the typical detail that is for, like, I do see there's a typical wall section.
Right. Does it show the 2x6 framing and then a 2x4 that the window sets back 2 inches onto, so that there's actually a return to the window? Because that's how we do all of the windows, particularly if the window is, I think this is going to be Pella instead of Anderson. Anderson has the flange that pushes it proud. It can actually feel like the glass is further out than the wall of the house. And here, the windows, they will have that look that a house of this era did with that setback in. I think that's very critical. I mean, I think that, that's one of the things that's unfortunate with a lot of new houses, that you just don't have that shadow line, and it's important for the character.
Okay.
And if they didn't put that on that detail, I'll make sure.
Well, no, there are wall sections, and
Yeah.
I just don't know if they're typical or not, of
Yeah.
what's happening with all the windows.
We even do that on great big houses up on North Mountain Drive.
Any other comments or questions from the board?
I have none.
No. Okay, this is a public hearing. Would anybody like to speak to this application? Anybody online? I move we close the public hearing. Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Valerie, you've got resolutions?
I do have resolutions. I have 2 resolutions, one for site plan and one for AHRB. So whereas the applicant is seeking site plan approval for several additions and exterior improvements to an existing one-family house. The property is located at 49 Bellwood Avenue. I'm just going to jump right down to now therefore be it resolved, the planning board of the village of Dobbs Ferry determines that based upon the findings and reasoning set forth below, the application for site plan approval is granted subject to the following conditions, and it refers to the site plans dated 12/2024. And the conditions are, again, the applicant must address to the full satisfaction of the village engineer, any outstanding stormwater issues or engineering issues. And the applicant shall pay all outstanding consultant review and legal fees in connection with the planning board review.
I make the motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And then the AHRB is Basically, the applicant is seeking AHRB approval. Now therefore be it resolved, the AHRB of the Village of Dobbs Ferry determines that based upon the findings and reasoning set forth below, the application for architectural and historic review approval is granted. And again, it refers to the site plan drawings of April 12th, 2024.
I make the motion. Do we have a second?
Yeah, could we have a condition added to that for the idea of the windows? Because I don't want to lose that. That's important.
Well, what would the condition
Yeah, what's
be?
specific?
The
If it's in your
windows-
drawing.
Leaving your
windows
drawing.
would be set in 2 inches
I don't
from the exterior sheathing.
Sure.
I don't see them.
Okay, hold on, I gotta write that down.
Take your time.
All right, so what is
Make that down and
the,
record it as a
Right.
historic moment.
so the condition is,
That all windows would be set in 2 inches in the framing from the outside of the sheathing. It requires that they actually be set in and that there be a return so they look like
With a shadow.
windows.
Yeah, good. Nothing wrong with that.
Okay, based on that modification, I make the motion. Do we have a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Thank you.
We're going to move on to pre-submission conference for the planning board and AHRB agenda. We're going to make a change in the sequence of this agenda. We're going to move the Knoll up. Is there someone here to present for the Knoll?
I will stop sharing. Pack close.
Excuse me.
Oh, yeah.
Mr. Chairman, I am going to recuse myself of this application.
Just for the record, Member Haupt has recused herself, and Member Windner, alternate Member Windner, is now seated. And also, just a reminder to everybody that's here, if you came late, this is going to be a presentation by the applicant. It's not a public hearing. We're not accepting public comments at this time. The board will, decide how to go forward. Thank you.
And you can watch it in the comfort of your home between commercials on the Olympics. It's the same thing is televised, right? So,
Yeah. What you see there is what you see at home.
right.
Good.
May we proceed?
Yes.
Please.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. David Steinmetz from the law firm of Zarin and Steinmetz. I'm here this evening representing Hillside Street LLC and my client, Andrew Cortese. Good to be back before your board. I am joined, in addition to Andrew, by my partner, Jacob Amir. You will be seeing both me and/or Jacob from time to time on the application, sometimes one, sometimes both of us. Dan Collins here on my right, our project engineer from Hudson Engineering, Lance Amato from Trace Concept, our project architect, and Robert Sherwood, our landscape architect. As I think the board is well aware, we are here tonight in connection this evening with an initial presentation on 2 of the lots, as well as the construction of a road on the knoll. We have an aerial photograph. I think everyone in the room, including all of our neighbors, obviously are quite well aware of where this project is located. We are at the top of Briary, where the knoll is shown on a series of maps. We're here specifically with regard to Lot 152 on filed map 3079, which Dan is putting before us right now. Filed map 3079 predates your board. It is a 1926 subdivision plat map approved in the village of Dobbs Ferry. It has been filed in the Westchester County Clerk's office for 98 years. We are here with regard to 2 different lots, 152 and 151, which Dan is indicating right here. 152 is 0.15 acres, 151 is 0.16 acres. The property, for the benefit of the public and the record, is located in the OF6 single-family residential district, in which single-family residential houses are permitted. Now, obviously, we're very well aware that there's a tremendous amount of public concern and participation, and the neighbors are here and may well be represented. I want to take a step back and say that when Jacob and I were brought into this matter, and it had been going on for some period of time with our professional team, we initially reached out to your village's professional staff. They were kind enough to conduct what we believe is a standard pre-submission meeting. We met with your building inspector, your village attorney, your village planner, and we began to discuss some of the critical issues that we knew we needed to encounter on this project. After that, we ultimately made a decision to submit 2 of the lots. My client is a contract vendee or a proposed purchaser of these 2 lots. He is a purchaser or a proposed purchaser contract vendee of 1 additional lot, and he owns a 4th lot. So nobody's trying to hide the ball on the fact that Mr. Cortese has significant interest in developing up to 4 lots at the present time. However, for a variety of reasons, we have chosen to develop or propose to develop first 2 single-family houses at the farthest end of his portion of the knoll. We submitted to your board Architectural and Historical Review Board application, a land use approval application, an LWRP consistency review form, a short environmental assessment form, our plan set, and our architecturals. Again, this is an illustration of the entire neighborhood, and I would simply indicate that there are well over, what did we say, about 100 lots? Over 100 lots, all shown on this 1926 plat. Let's go to the next illustration. We're here tonight specifically with regard to this. These are the 2 lots, the 2 houses that are proposed, the road entrance that extends off of Briery along what was previously approved, set forth for 98 years on a filed plat as the knoll. You can see, and Robert and Lance will walk through this in a moment, the concept is to take this road, which likely will be a private road, and develop it in the most tasteful fashion that my client can with landscaping. He is prepared to be quite mindful of fitting in with the neighborhood and the neighbors, again, as best he can. I would simply state for the record that this neighborhood, as you all know, and our neighbors know, is dominated by a series of roads that have vertical and horizontal curvature, vertical up and down, and horizontal left to right curvature that is not necessarily entirely consistent with your other provisions of your village code. In fact, as Dan can explain better than I, a number of the roads in the immediate vicinity are rather significant in terms of their vertical curvature, more so than the proposed knoll to be developed precisely where it was laid out 98 years ago.
I'm sorry, we're not taking comments from the
Yeah.
public.
You can't.
No,
you
Please,
cannot
please hold your comments.
He needs to present.
Appreciate that. Thank you for the courtesy. We're very well aware of the Protect the Knoll group, their council's submission. In fact, the gentleman who called out the comment about the demapping may not be familiar with the village's official statement from yesterday. We reviewed the statement from the mayor and the Board of Trustees, and I appreciate the fact that the village of Dobbs Ferry has now publicly pronounced 2 critical threshold legal issues. One, and I'm assuming the planning board is aware of the mayor and the Board of Trustees statement. But for the benefit of the record, and maybe for the folks in the neighborhood who may not be aware, there's now an official statement from the village on 2 critical threshold legal issues. One, that despite the requests from the public for the Board of Trustees to entertain a moratorium and prevent my client from attempting to go through this process and develop these lots, that it would be inappropriate, and the Board of Trustees has declined that request. And we appreciate the fact that they've stated that. Second, and maybe more germane to this comment, we also appreciate the fact that the Board of Trustees and legal counsel have stated that the demapping of 2005 was legally ineffective, was not done correctly. The knoll is still a road as shown on a filed map. And as was stated, my client has every legal right to proceed with this development. So for those that feel that that is an issue, I would hope that your board will disregard that and let's spend our time and our energy that we're going to have to spend together on the issues that are germane and legally relevant. And that's how do we develop these lots in a tasteful, lawful, safe, environmentally friendly fashion. So having said that, we did receive the memos from Nelson Pope and Voorhees and Valerie, from AI and Anthony Olivieri. We will be we just received those memos, I think, in the last several days. We will be responding to those memos as we proceed. Nothing was raised in those memos from our professional standpoint that were surprising or insurmountable. We're very well aware that we have to address utilities satisfactorily to the village and its professional staff, as well as the Westchester County Department of Health. My engineer and our development team are confident that we will be able to establish adequate sewer, water, and stormwater. In fact, for the neighbors who rightfully have every right to be concerned about stormwater, we actually think that we're going to be able to improve stormwater drainage in the area as a result of the implementation of state-of-the-art techniques by Dan Collins and Hudson Engineering. In addition, I said earlier that we started with the 2 back lots. The reason we started with the 2 back lots is to get to the back lots, we have to extend our portion of the knoll the furthest point that my client would need to do that. Why did we do that? Because that puts the onus on Dan Collins to design stormwater drainage to handle the longest run of the knoll that we necessarily would need. So we took the worst-case scenario and the 2 lots in the back so that we would deal with, design, and address stormwater management for those 2 lots and the entirety of the knoll, our portion of the knoll. Road access. I indicated earlier that we needed to address road access. I'll let Dan hit that in a moment specifically. I just want to state for the record that at my client's request and our request, Dan did a very quick sampling of a number of roads in the subdivision immediately surrounding us. Portion of Temple Road, 15.5%. Hilldale Road, 14.2%. Briary, 15.9% vertical curvature. Park Hill Terrace, 14.2%. Heather Way, 19.4%. I say that simply because I anticipate, and I've read the submissions from my friend Andrew Shriver. I've read the materials about how could you build these roads, how could you get up there, how could you design and build the knoll. The knoll will actually be better designed, better constructed, and have safer vertical and horizontal curvature and intersectional geometry than several of the other roads that surround us. Doesn't make it the best, maybe it does. It certainly does not make it inconsistent with the pattern of development, other than that it's probably somewhat safer than the other roads. And we have the ability to design and build the knoll at an adequate width that we believe we will satisfy your planner, your engineer, and your fire department about access. One of the reasons we have if you could just gesture with your cursor, that we have this little cutout or turnaround in the back there is to provide for the ability for emergency service vehicles, should they ever traverse the knoll and get to the top, to be able to back and turn around. I would tell you that you have a lot of other roads on map 3079 that probably are not as easily accessible for your first responders. So we're pleased with that. We got some questions about maintenance of the road and maintenance of the stormwater basin. And Valerie, we will respond to that in greater detail, but I want to just start on a high level. At the moment, my client's concept is that our portion of the knoll will likely be a private road. There will likely be at least 2, maybe 4 houses on it. It will have a common driveway easement requiring obligations of maintenance, cost sharing, insurance, indemnification that will be handled in that document. That document will be made, we will ultimately offer it as a condition of approval. It will be submitted to and reviewed by your village attorney as to form and content and substance. So as to the road, and likewise as to the stormwater basin. As Dan will explain, we have designed stormwater for the road and for these 2 lots. Any shared or common stormwater will also be addressed in a declaration of easements and covenants that will address how these lots will handle stormwater should the village not accept the infrastructure improvements. The neighbors, or our other 90 or 100 neighbors, don't have to deal with their private obligations on stormwater and road maintenance, but Mr. Cortese understands, given the facts and circumstances that he has before him, the village may not accept this road. That doesn't preclude him from building it. That doesn't preclude him from marketing and selling houses and lots. SECRA. We've gotten some comments about SECRA. My understanding from your counsel is that you wouldn't ordinarily tonight formally commence the SECRA process. We are assuming that your board will ultimately be the lead agency under the New York State Environmental Quality Review Act, SECRA. We are prepared to supply your board with all of the necessary planning, engineering, and other materials, as well as aesthetic information in your architectural capacity. You'll get all of that. We believe that we have given you the secret information you need specifically with regard to these two lots, as well as the road. There has been a comment from Mr. Shriver about segmentation. I'm going to address it in one simple sentence. We have not unlawfully segmented this application by filing for two lots. We have filed for that which is subject to SECRA. Were we to come back in the future for a lot that's shown on a filed map, it is a type 2 action under SECRA. It will not require a SECRA review, but we can still deal with stormwater drainage, utilities, et cetera, on those individual lots. So all of that having been said is some preliminary comments. I'm going to turn it over to Dan. Dan's going to walk us briefly through engineering on the road, utilities that I've at least summarized. We're then going to discuss the aesthetic concept that Lance has designed for the two houses, and we're going to conclude with landscaping that Robert has designed for the road and the lots. We're happy to answer any questions. We know this is a preliminary kickoff meeting. We will be here as we go through the process, public hearings, et cetera. We look forward to working with your board. We look forward to working with your professional staff, and we are prepared and look forward to working with the community to achieve the best result possible. Dan.
Just gotta grab my notes. Good evening, members of the board. Dan Collins from Hudson Engineering, the engineer for the project. Just pull up my engineering plans. So as David already mentioned, there'll be two new lots that we're proposing with a new roadway. This plan was part of the first building application because we were required to separate them in two building permit applications by the village. The first was for the 151 lot, and then the 152 lot would be right next door. Obviously, these would be likely to be constructed at the same time as when they build the roadway up to the top of the hill. Both lot 151 and 152 will both consist of a 2.5-story building with driveway access from the new roadway that's coming up the hill. 151, which is this lot here, and I'll probably zoom into it and make it a little easier. There you go. Lot 151 will also have a new patio to the back, and a small walkway in the front to the front portico chair. Second is 152, which is right next door. On this lot, it'll be very similar to the other lot. This will have a 1,425 square foot footprint building for a 2.5-story building. Again, driveway access will be off the new roadway. And this, because of the grades in the back, this will have a deck extending out of the rear of the property. Again, to provide access to both lots, we do need to provide a roadway. The proposed roadway is to be 436 feet, which extends up from Briary at the intersection of the existing right-of-way. Follow the center line of the knoll right-of-way up until the edge of the property line and doesn't extend beyond. This will provide access to the two lots and potentially the 153 and 147 in the future.
Width of the road, Dan?
The width of the road is a 25-foot wide road. That was actually a requirement that was requested by the village, and we were actually happy to be able to provide that. Again, the width of this road, we did do, on top of what David said as well, we did do measurements of the roadway all the way up for Briary. A lot of the roads in the entire neighborhood are somewhere between 16 feet wide to 24 feet wide. Briary itself is between 18 and 20 feet, and that's starting at Ashford all the way up to this location here. There's actually a section up on Heather Way where it bends around to go up to Summit Terrace. That's really tight bend there. That's between 16 and 17 feet wide. So that's pretty tight up there. This will be 25 feet. There's plenty of room. We actually also put together as part of this, let's get to that real quick.
While you're looking at that, just for the record, Mr. Chairman and members of the board, we're proposing the road at that width. We are prepared, should your board and your consultants agree, to make it narrower from an environmental and stormwater standpoint, but we have the ability to build this road at a wider width than the other roads in the subdivision.
Again, we put together a truck turning analysis, which is a standard ladder truck. This one is 46.25 feet length total. It shows that this ladder truck can maneuver up. It already has to be able to get to Briary as it is. Once it gets up here, you can see that it has more than adequate space to turn in. We have two 25-foot radii per the village's requirement to flare out to Briary. Truck can turn in, can go all the way to the end, has plenty of room for staging, can back up, has plenty of room to stop here before turning around and coming back out and heading back down without hitting any curbs or encroaching on anybody's front yards or the edge of the right-of-way, as you can see here. So, moving back, I'll move to the grading. So the grade of the road, we're going to extend off of, again, Briary Road. This is going to extend off at 10%. Up until about this point, will be 14% around the bend, where it then flattens back out, will be 5% at the top. The small turnout will be 8% down. The turnout, again, is also 25 feet, will require an easement, a 15-foot wide emergency easement over the 153 lot in order to provide the width. The original little stub that was there as part of the 1926 is obviously per a very old turnaround code, if there was a fire code in 1926. We've actually made that a little wider so that we can provide our turnaround and get the trucks in and out. The reason we followed this grade, and I'll switch to the profile quick, was that you can see the dashed line here, that's actually the existing grade. And then the solid lines, the proposed from 10 to 14 up to the 5 at the top. We were trying the best possible to follow the actual existing grade up as to minimize the amount of additional disturbance or excavation that we need to get to the top. In doing so, we're actually pretty close to existing grade. Moving back in this area, we'll need there'll be a 4-foot wall that would be needed on the north side of the road. Once it reaches the bend on this side, we'll need what right now is about a 2-foot wall, 2.5-foot wall for a short distance. Once it gets past the bend up here, nothing's needed. We're able to meet grade, everything within the right-of-way. And then obviously we'll grade out to meet the other 2 lots. Again, also for the vertical curve, I know a lot of the roads around here, as David already mentioned, are between 10 and 14% actually already. With, again, the ones that he'd stated are well above the 14%. This is well in the grades that are currently existing out there right now in the surrounding neighborhood. The one thing we were able to do, these vertical curves that transition from between the 10 and the 14 and the 14 to the 5, as you can see here, those are actually designed for a 30-mile-an-hour road per the village code. So we were actually able to meet that requirement to provide. Obviously, I don't anticipate anybody flying up this road at 30 miles an hour, but we were able to meet that village requirement. My way back, the other one. Regard to stormwater. Actually, I'll switch to the watershed maps. Second. So for the watershed design, we didn't just look at the knoll in itself where we were doing our development. We actually looked beyond that to include the existing area from the additional lots, as well as additional off-site area because there is an existing ridge line that's exists on the During Estate off-site. We wanted to take that into consideration in our analysis coming down to the existing drain inlet where we are connecting. So right now, in the existing conditions, the runoff from the rear side here, a lot of this either goes towards Luzerne or down towards Secor. The remaining portion of this check section here, that all comes down towards Briary, towards a drain inlet, existing drain inlet in the road, and the approximate location where design point 1 is, right where my little hand is there. So in the proposed condition, we're actually regrading the top to take actually in more than we need to. We actually extended the swale up into the right-of-way to capture more of this runoff here. We added a swale to the back of the proposed residence here to cut this watershed down, and then this entire area, which is approximately about an acre and a half, is captured and conveyed to a proposed oversized attenuation gallery. These are actually 12-foot high concrete units that'll be underground. This has been sized to treat the runoff. There's an internal treatment device, filter cartridges that'll be integrated into the design inside the footprint. That'll treat the water quality volume. The entire storm system also has an outlet control structure integrated in the system on the outlet side. That's sized to actually control the flows for all storms up to and including the 100-year. The flows then are discharged down I believe a 15-inch pipe down the street where we're going to put a new drain inlet in over the existing pipe. And we're able to actually reduce the flows to that location right here while taking into consideration all the existing off-site flow and not just what's coming through from our site. In regard to utilities, we are proposing to provide sewer. We are proposing to extend a new sewer main up the street, an 8-inch PVC line to service the 4 lots, and with a dead-end manhole right adjacent to the 151 property. This will actually start there's an existing structure right at the end of our proposed intersection. We're able to get that up the hill and just provide the service to all these lots. Currently, for water, we are proposing 2 wells in the rear of the lot. So this one will be here. Obviously, the next one will be next door here on the 152. Where we're here, that's a new well. If it is determined, and we did go through the memos, if it is determined that we cannot get a draw of water, obviously we will work with Veolia to get a new water main extension up on the hill. Right now, we're looking to avoid that, but if it is needed, then we'll work with Veolia to get that up there. There is obviously more than enough room in this right-of-way to make that work. So, but we'll get to that when we get to it. And I believe that's it for the engineering. I guess I'll turn it over to.
I'm going to turn it over to Lance to walk us through the design.
Yeah. Good evening, Board. Lance of Trace Concepts. I'm the architect for the project. This is a very brief introduction of the 2 residences that we'd like to propose for this project. It is very conceptual and schematic in nature, so this will be a very brief presentation, and we do understand that this will load. We do understand that there will be concurrent and following meetings to talk about materiality as well as the overall style of the residence. Lot 152, I'll start with lot 151. The intent here is that both residences would be consistent in nature with materiality. We'd follow with concepts of smooth panel exterior siding with the blend of natural materials such as wood, which would wrap around the residences in varying fashions. Both residences would actually be a 2-story residence with 4 bedrooms each and 3 bathrooms. The proposed size of each one of these residences for lot 151 is a 30-foot wide by 58-foot long residence, and for lot 152 would be a 30-foot long by 50-foot, 30-foot wide by 50-foot long residence, both again in 2 stories. At this point, everything is very, very conceptual materiality. We will have materials in follow-up meetings, and obviously open for any suggestions, interpretation.
Good evening, Board. Robert Sherwood, landscape architect for the project. The intent of what we tried to do here was to take the existing roadway and the limited space that we do have with the 25-foot wide driveway, screening out as much as we can along both sides of the driveway in the beginning where closest to the two neighbors. Those materials would be in green giant arborvitae. Where there was a retaining wall that needs to be built, we are switching up and doing an evergreen shrub, an Ilex crenata, like a Steed's holly, that would stay evergreen and be at a planted height where obviously it blocks the headlights and anything else from any kind of light pollution. Wrapping around the corner where we could, we started to introduce some more of a street tree nature. Those are a form of a maple tree that will stay fastigiate in nature, so they grow up a little bit more tall. And as we come up and around the corner, if these other lots do get developed, we'll create a landscape plan for them. But around the houses and buildings and such, we decided to obviously screen a little bit between the two buildings. Where needed, do some more screening with a Leland cypress in the backyard that would give screening to the back neighbors. This landscaping in the front, the small flowering tree, some very indicative of a kind of a classic landscape, some boxwoods, maybe some flowering shrubs, hydrangeas, et cetera. But, and then a couple more flowering trees down at the base of the road here. What I tried to do is kind of make it look like more of a residential effect of a driveway than a road, so that it feels a little less impactful. And for now, that's what we have. Thank you.
So members of the board, that is our affirmative presentation. We are happy to answer any questions. I know there are a host of issues that were raised in some of the correspondence that your board received from the neighbors and their council. We're happy to answer that. This is an initial kickoff. We don't want to go beyond the realm of what the board wants us to address, but our whole team is here. We are happy to answer questions as we map out how we proceed from here.
Do any members of the board have questions or comments they'd like to bring up at this time, understanding that there are a lot of legal and engineering issues yet to be addressed?
I don't think we're ready.
Okay.
There's a lot more work to be done.
Valerie, do you have issues you'd like to bring up?
Yeah, I just want to highlight a few comments for the board and also the public in terms of, I'm sort of summarizing comments from both Anthony and myself. He's not able to attend tonight. But I just wanted to highlight a couple of things that we think initially that need to be dealt with prior to really diving into the details of the site plan. First of all, just let's talk about the site plan itself. In terms of, now that originally it was the intent or was the thought that each individual property was going to contain, for the most part, the stormwater that's required for, both 152 and 151. And, now the applicant is proposing to have stormwater located on another lot, as well as the turnaround will encroach onto a fourth lot. And so the question comes into play is site plan required for those other additional lots based upon not only the village code, but then also just the fact that we are dealing with two additional lots. And potentially, if there is site plan required for more or less all four lots, whether we look at it as like one application versus the two separate applications, that will potentially also trigger, just building a single-family home is a type 2 action under seeker, but looking at it more holistically would trigger it as like an unlisted action under seeker. So that's nothing that has to be decided tonight, but this is stuff that, the attorney can provide additional information as well as your planning board attorney. In addition, there's a couple other things dealing with some of the legal issues that both Anthony and I had concerns with, and that dealt with like the stormwater management of the site and how that will be handled, especially since it's off-site, and how that affects potentially other tie-ins to like the sewer systems or some of the other systems down the line, especially with runoff from the road if the road gets extended. And also that terms, the maintenance of that private road, how will that be handled? Who will be responsible for snow removal? And then again, how will that be handled in terms of future potential development, because this is part of technically a larger subdivision. And then we also question on terms of the actual road easement, the actual road, there will be an easement on, I believe it's 147, I'm sorry, 153, lot 153, and so that probably needs to be looked at in terms of whether that property is potentially going to be developed in the future. And if it's not, whether that then becomes like a conservation easement associated with that particular lot. If it is to be developed, then I think there really needs to be, the board might need to look at it in terms of, does that roadway require zoning variances if that project is supposed to be, the future development of that project, and whether you can automatically encumber a property that has yet to be developed with, like, making it non-conforming. So those are some of the initial things that we think that need to be dealt with prior to even starting to deal with some of the other issues. And then one last thing is the retaining walls and some of the other technical engineering issues. I mean, we had concerns with, in terms of whether those wells would be located and, would be able to be developed, or if not, then there really should be designs developed as terms of like the water and emergency access is something else that we think that the fire department should take a look at. Not necessarily even emergency access, but also any sort of suppression that's required. And then the retaining walls, we understand that there more details will be forthcoming, but how do you install those retaining walls without encroaching onto some of the neighboring properties, without getting some sort of easements and stuff like that? So those are some of the initial things that I think need to be dealt with, or we think that need to be dealt with first prior to being able to really dive into some of the details of the site.
Thanks. One thing that jumped out at me was when you were demonstrating how you were going to redirect water flow by basically changing the watershed, shape of the watershed. How much excavation, rock removal, et cetera, would be involved? I mean, that looked like a large amount of clearing, but you don't have to answer that now.
We could look into that.
Yes, that looked like a major piece of construction there.
In addition to the sort of various legal issues, which I know nothing really.
Excuse me, Chair, could you ask the people outside to be quiet so we can understand what's being said? We can't hear you.
Or I can just,
No, it's
how's that?
hard to hear and concentrate with.
Well, someone just has to step at the door and say that, because we're trapped up here.
How's this? There are a couple of, before we yell at them. There are some things that, whatever the sort of technical and legal complications are, and I think they may be significant, but I'm not an engineer or a lawyer. From a site planning point of view, even if this was a single house in a completely established neighborhood, there are certain basic things that we would ask for just to be able to understand the project. One is a site plan that shows the full neighborhood with all of the building footprints. You had a plan that shows some of the site plans, shows some of the houses around the edges.
Existing houses.
I'm talking about existing houses. But it doesn't give us any sense of really how the houses fit into the overall neighborhood pattern. And so I feel like a figure ground plan in which all of the structures are, sort of the existing structures are in some like much more readable. I find this plan hard to read, and I would say that the existing building footprints and the proposed building footprints both need to be darker. The other thing that I think is even more significant is for there to be cross-sections, multiple cross-sections through the site that don't just go through the site, but that go far enough in either direction, including the During Estate further down, so that one can get a sense of how these buildings sit relative to their neighbors. So those cross-sections would show in elevation, if they didn't literally cut through some of the adjacent houses, would show those houses in elevation so you could see the scale of these houses in elevation once they're, because they're a different topographical layer than the other houses. And I would say for a site this scale, we would be looking for several of those cross-sections in several, in several directions to get a better sense of what's really going on in 3 dimensions. And then I think, just as a matter of routine, we would need to do a site visit. And I think that's something that we should go ahead and schedule, since it has to be publicly noticed, although I would advise the public that they're not allowed to talk to us theoretically, although I've never not had that happen, but we're supposed to walk along in our bubble. So we should, I think, do that.
And
We have to do
You'd
that
have
at
to
the very
just
least.
sort of mark it out in some way so that we could see
Right.
where things are.
So
Right.
why don't we have at least a quick discussion on what you'd like marked out? I'm assuming we could mark out, Dan, help me here, the center line of the knoll as it climbs up towards these 2 lots, and maybe the corners of these 2 lots and the corners of the houses?
Of the structures.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Yeah.
But we would normally ordinarily.
Run the lawnmower over where the road's going to go, that would be useful.
So, I don't know, are there other,
Not me. Dan, is there anything you'd like to speak to from a legal standpoint?
No, I think everything's
Cover that pretty well now.
Sir,
Okay.
not a comment, but can the neighbors be notified when this site?
they are, it's a publicly
It will be
noticed, it
public
has to be
notice.
publicly noticed.
No notification.
Excuse me, there'll be notification for the neighbors to go, but we're not having a
Yeah,
discussion.
it's a
about it.
public, I mean, it's the equivalent of a public meeting, it has to legally be noticed.
Do you want to try and choose a site visit date now, or
We can,
do you want to coordinate it and notice it offline?
maybe we should do that.
Let's do that.
Do it better.
Okay, unless there's anything else, I think we'll move to the next application.
Continue the
Well, it's nothing, it's
submission.
pre-submission. So we'll see you next month with some of these issues addressed with our
Great.
professional team.
Someone will notify us about the site visit date so that we have
Yes.
to,
Bathroom.
Dan or Valerie or.
Or go around.
And just to reiterate for everybody, a public hearing has not yet been set. Next month will be another pre-submission meeting like tonight. You'll have the opportunity to comment at a public hearing.
Thank you,
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, we appreciate your time and your patience.
Thank you.
thank you.
And you guys already decided on
No,
This is just pre-submission. This is pre-submission.
nothing's decided.
Why didn't we have comments from the board, from the?
Yep.
Well, I know, but we're not gonna be ready for it.
Well, they have to have enough project mapped out, so it's clear.
No, that's.
There's a lot of fuzzy edges.
Oh, I'm totally.
Hey,
I don't know.
Just a little kind bar.
Thank you, Mike.
A little kind bar between.
between acts,
Right, I just had lunch today.
so what are we gonna, what should we do next?
Next is 443 Broadway.
Well,
Oh, wait,
No?
we didn't do 443, did we?
no.
Referred to the trustees, I guess.
Hey, everyone, could we clear the room so we can continue with our agenda, please?
No.
Excuse me? Thank you.
Yeah,
I almost
use
used it.
that thing. Use that thing.
First time.
We're two brutes over here.
All right, 443 Broadway has been adjourned for this
Yes.
meeting.
Yeah. Because you have to go to the Board of Trustees.
Yeah, do we know anything about that?
Yeah, you're going to be on the August agenda.
This is, for trustees,
So I don't get to talk?
443.
Thank God.
How was your vacation?
I'm so disappointed.
Next time,
You know,
Pat.
you could have also told me that before.
You wouldn't have missed it for the world.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, the next item on our agenda is 70 Washington Avenue, continuation of the pre-submission conference for proposed new residential home on existing lots.
Okay, good evening, Robert Sherwood, landscape architect. We had presented a little bit of this, I don't know how to get this to show up on your screen.
She's going to help you. Christie, yeah.
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
So we were here last month regarding a presentation for 70 Washington Road. It's a new single-family residence. There was a lot of questions on the original subdivision, which occurred back in 2008. So we did submit this original map that was filed. It was a 3-lot subdivision with what we're calling as Lot 1, Lot 2 down here, 60 Washington, and our site, which is here, 70 Washington. The property line kind of comes down here. There is I think it's about 25-foot wide strip of land that runs down for this Lot 1 to put a driveway in if they elect to. But currently, the existing driveway that services Lot 1 kind of meanders back onto the proposed lot 70 Washington, swings back onto their property and comes up through here. There is an access easement for that, and there's an access easement for the water company to have a water line up and through here. The other major easement that's on Lot 70 Washington, there's an easement that follows the property line kind of diagonally up through the center of the property and then follows this kind of southern property line to come up to feed Lot 1, their 3 utilities, which would be gas, sewer, and electric. The existing water, I believe, is coming up through the road here. There is a line for a sewer line, an existing line that runs, we think, through the center of the property here that we would be removing for Lot 1, and then obviously put a new sewer line in. And we are anticipating utilizing that sewer line for our line, because it's there, tie into it, and run our sewer line down that. That being said, let's see if I can come up with this next. See if this works. I don't know how to make it bigger. So I tried to give you all an overview of an aerial photography shot where this is Belden Road. This is Maple Street here at the bottom of the page. Here is Lot, which we're calling 60, or Lot 2. Here's our proposed development lot here of Lot 3, or 70 Washington. This was the existing residence, and this is the golf course to the north. Again, here's the subdivision plat. I tried to gray out the area so that you could really just see our proposed lot and how we're going to develop it. This is the site development plan showing we're utilizing the existing driveway that kind of meanders up, and our lot will be creating a new spur driveway off to a garage here, front of the house here, and the house kind of is reversed to the building lot, but the rear yard would actually face forward. But this would be a house that has a walkout basement here and deck and developed area. there is a kind of a natural flat area up in here that we would develop, so that kind of really lawn space is limited here to this, where the slope starts to drop down and steep slopes taking effect. We did submit a steep slope plan. I do realize that the town would like to see that plan in color, and we'll be changing that. We do have a bit of technical difficulties with myself here. This mouse is real slow. Wanted to get to this overall easement plan, kind of shows you the red up here is the existing easement that allows for access to go up to Lot 1 over the properties. And there's an actual water line that needs to be installed for that original subdivision plat that took place. And then coming down along southern property line through the center of the property, that is another easement that would be utilized for all the utilities for Lot 1. And we'd have to put those in. And this is the existing sewer line that we're going to abandon part of and tie our new house into. And our other utilities will just more than likely come straight kind of down through the center of the property and tie in on the street. All right. For the architecture, we do have Willie Basharat here to discuss and talk a little bit more about the building. Oh, boy.
You know, the house as we propose in it, it's, you know, basically a stucco house. It's going to be white, beigey, white grayish color with a black roof on it. We have samples of the material with us over here, and I'm not sure if the board wants us to submit the physical samples, or should we just upload them and submit them as actual photographs of the material? We can do both.
I don't need to see a real sample. Anybody, just upload the specs and the colors and so on.
We have that. We called for it on the plans. There's a schedule of the material here, of all the finishes and the colors, including the brand name of the material itself. The house is going to be basically, it's a simple house, really, nothing complicated about it, nothing sophisticated about it, just a simple, plain house that blends in within the region. There's a lot of houses similar in concept to it in the area, close by, in the vicinity, and in the village overall. You know, like I said, you know, one of the main things that the board, not the board, but the consultants asked for is the lighting, and we will comply with the lighting. The lighting is going to be only on the house itself. Nothing will spill outside the boundaries of the property, since the property is very large and the house like kind of centered in the middle of the property, so there's no effects, lighting effects, disturbance to any of the neighbors or the street or the vehicles on Washington Avenue. If there's any questions, we'll be more than happy to answer.
I just had a question about the site. I looked at that the other day, and I was thinking that you would put the house down lower on the site, closer to Washington, because there's just a big mountain of rock up there on the top.
It's really a flat plateau up there,
So
naturally.
So beyond the rock, it's flat rock?
Well, there is rock over there, but, you know, rocks is made to be moved. And and it will be, the flat area, you know, it's really, it screams to put the house up there,
Maybe I
also
didn't-
higher, away
didn't
from
walk
Washington
that far.
Avenue and the noise of the vehicles and what have you.
Uh-huh.
You know, that's the best choice for it, for many reasons. And if there's an obstacle of the rock, that will be dealt with.
And there's a schedule showing what you need to move around to get the house on there?
Say that again?
There's a moving schedule of rock removal, or?
It's part of the excavation, you know, I mean, if there's some rock that need to be hammered, will be hammered, there'll be no blasting or anything like that. It's not that we're gonna be moving like a 2,000 yard of rock. It's gonna be like a couple hundred yards in the area. As I said, and we'll see that some of them may be the loose rocks. We don't know if it's rock ledge or loose boulders that could be removed till we start digging and see what's underneath there.
So, I have two questions. One is, we had one letter of concern was submitted for us about the runoff and stormwater conditions on the site, and whether in this whole area, and whether or not this was going to aggravate those. Has, Valerie, is he satisfied about, and this person who wrote also suggested a site visit, which I don't know if we need to do as a group. I certainly feel like I need to see it, visit it, and I intend to do that. Did Anthony, I was looking at his memo, and
Is it ready for me?
May I address that? You know, we are going to be containing the stormwater. We have a complete stormwater management on this. There was a comment in there that we need to increase the rain volume in there, and that's no problem. We will provide 100% containment of the stormwater. We will not be dumping anything on the avenue or anywhere else.
the other question I have, and this was brought up to me by somebody who lives on Belden. When you look at Google, and so maybe this is just something you have to explain to me in the easements, like what the easements are for. And I apologize, I missed the last meeting, so I don't know if this came up. When you look on Google Maps, there's this thing called Spoilers Run.
That's the extension of, it's right next to where Belden would go.
Right, where Belden and it ends up at Cricket Lane. That's different, by the way, than the golf course.
Correct.
Yeah, that is this property, right in there. It's a,
Where is it?
lack of better words, a paper road? Some or other.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Let's use a different word.
That's a bad word right there.
Yeah. So does that get maintained in the?
We're not touching that at all. Our property here is, there's that, which I would call Belden Road, I think it was at one time.
Belden. It's like a footpath going next.
Yeah, there's a
Right,
footpath.
and so that will
Their
remain,
driveway.
and that remains, presumably that remains unopened? Okay,
Yeah.
good, I just wanted
I
to,
like that, it's a cool thing.
yeah, it's a nice little sneak through.
And does the big house actually have a connection for their golf cart to go to the country club?
I think they
I've
do.
never been up there.
I think they do. Probably here.
Down right in front of them, well,
It shows on
Right over
the
here.
site plan, it shows a little connection.
That's it.
I'm just jealous.
Okay,
It's nice to be in that
That-
position.
those are my-
Golfing, you know?
those are my only questions or points.
Rob, just so you know, Anthony's letter, or excuse
Right,
me,
I just
memo.
had it. and I-
Yeah, he's still waiting for the stormwater pollution prevention plan to be submitted. So he has
Okay.
not looked at the stormwater at this point.
Okay,
We will take care of that, and we'll
Okay.
update it with the proper rain.
okay.
He also asked for a fully
So
coordinated
tonight,
revised services
The
plan.
Knoll was on, the things around the village saying, stop the Knoll. It's the project that I kind of worked on when I did the house for,
you shut Patty off. Is he supposed to be? I don't think.
Yeah, it's the spirit of Patty.
Patty's,
Remaining in the room.
Patty's everywhere you want to be.
I'm like, who's talking? I'm like,
I know.
So anyway, back to the fully coordinated revised services plan. That was something Anthony wanted. He wanted a signed and sealed existing conditions survey. Okay. The landscaping plan refers to an arborist report. We're looking
We'll-
to that to be provided.
hopefully get forward to them, and whatever input, we'll be more than happy to
And
address.
would the board like to have us send out the proposed landscaping plan currently to your village arborist?
Did Anthony recommend, or did you recommended that?
You recommended that.
Well, yeah, but.
It's a
I
pretty
mean,
big
it's an
property,
option.
that's why
It's an
I'm-
option,
Yeah, we should-
especially since they're proposing a pretty robust landscaping.
Okay, yes,
Okay,
please.
yeah,
then.
let's do it.
Is also the lighting plan does not meet code was a note I saw. Did we get that? Are you working on
Well,
that?
we really have to clarify it more. It does meet, and we will make sure 100% it meets section 300-41 of the village code. It's absolutely no problem.
Okay.
Okay, we will clarify that. It does meet the code.
Valerie, you mentioned there were zoning table issues?
Yeah, so I think we just need the applicant to update the zoning table for the dimensions based on tables B3 through B7. These are the sliding scales tables. So that needs to be finalized.
I guess in the end, if you could go through both Valerie's report and Anthony's
will address
report and make
each
sure you
of the
address all
items.
those issues. Thank you.
Our plans for both of us to get together and take care of that. Thank you very much. We'll
Thank
see
you.
next
Thank you.
All right. Our next item
You going over
is
to see it?
Yeah.
111 Lafergie, which has been adjourned to the September 9th meeting. After that, we are at number 6, Walden Wood, pre-submission conference for proposed exterior alterations, including new drainage and pavement.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
I'm Bruce Gombos. I'm a Walden Wood resident and a member of the Board of Directors of Walden Wood. Just for you who don't know, Walden Wood is a homeowners association that covers 115 houses. With me tonight is Steve Brennan, who's also a member of the Board of Directors, and Ryan Fellenzer, who has been our engineer beginning in the assessment phase through the end of bid and award, and will continue as our engineer during the construction process. Our project is different than those I've heard discussed so far tonight.
Really?
So, yeah, Rob, really. It is a repair and maintenance of existing underground utilities. Walden Wood was built about 45 years ago, and during that period, there has been no systematic assessment or repair of the stormwater or of the sanitary system. Applying common sense before we repaved the streets, we did a assessment. Ryan's firm did an assessment, and we found that we had work that had to be done before we repaved the streets. And that's what this project is about. There is no change of dimensions, there is no adding new utilities. We're strictly repairing and maintaining to maintain good infrastructure. I'm going to turn it over to Ryan, who could give you a brief technical review of what the scope of work is.
Thank you. Thank you, Bruce. This looks like something that just Anthony needs to
Yeah,
be
I was
satisfied
going
with.
to say, Dan, what are I'm sorry, I meant
Yeah.
the smart Dan. What was the threshold criteria here for?
300 cubic feet of soil being moved.
Okay, so is there really, is this something where we can waive,
Yes, definitely. We would just need some of Anthony's comments.
Yeah.
answered and
Addressed?
dealt
Okay.
with, But as far as site plan, I think this could be waived. I'd
It's really
recommend that.
just paperwork, yeah.
So subject to with Anthony's satisfaction, you could.
Correct.
Prior to your issuing the permit.
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay,
I'm on board with that.
so you want to make a motion? Is that-
Yeah,
is there-
we meet
can we do
Anthony's
that?
notes.
Waive?
Yeah, I mean, you can just make a motion to waive the site plan.
Okay, I make a motion that we waive the site plan subject to satisfaction of Anthony's action items.
Plead no contest to that.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Thank
That was the
you.
easiest board
Yeah,
meeting
thanks.
ever.
Yeah.
Just to make sure I understand the process.
Yeah. You-
So we got some letters, we got a letter today from Anthony. We got 4 or 5 questions asked. It's easy for Ryan to answer them. Who shall he submit those answers to? To Dan, to you?
Yeah, building
Dan.
department.
Okay, and then after, we have a contractor who has been selected. We had a homeowners vote, which overwhelmingly 90% approved spending the money. We're negotiating with the bank. What do we need from this board in order to proceed to award the contract and move to construction?
Nothing, they waived their site plan approval, you just have to submit the construction drawings to the building department. We'll review them, Anthony will review them, and once everything's satisfied, we could issue the permit.
Thanks, Dan.
Thank you very much.
Good, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for wading through that whole
Yeah.
crazy.
Right, it was a hard act to follow, so, yeah.
All right, the next item on our agenda is 25 Bradley Street, pre-submission conference for proposed patio renovation, extension, and stormwater control.
Kind of the same thing.
Is this a similar, is there anyone here
Don't
to,
need those, unless somebody asks for them, we'll ask you for them.
Is there anyone here to speak to this? It's 25 Bradley. What were Anthony's comments here?
I mean,
Hello? May have given up.
Anybody online?
sounds like it.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yep.
No, there we go.
Okay, great.
Mike?
So my name is Mike Morano, with AC Engineering here representing the owners of 25 Bradley Street. 25 Bradley has an existing patio and retaining wall in the back of the property. But what they have right now, the existing condition is the pitch of the patio has caused stormwater to flow into the dwelling and enter into the basement. So to mitigate this, the owner's planning on removing the existing patio and reinstalling it so that it pitches away from the house. And in addition to rebuilding the patio, they want to extend it about 20 feet. And the newly rebuilt patio and patio extension will be pitched towards a series of trench drains and catch basins for stormwater collection, and then routed to underground infiltration units on the property. And they were designed for a 25-year, 24-hour storm events. And in addition to the patio work, they plan on installing a footing drain at the foundation of the house to prevent stormwater from entering the basement. And this drainage will flow into a cul-de-sac located in the front of the property.
Is this a similar situation, Dan, where we
Correct.
could waive site plan?
Yes. It's just a
I'm
movement of
sorry.
20 feet.
No, I mean, no, I think Peter, I said that to you. I don't think they hear
Oh,
it.
okay. Sorry, I'm sorry.
So,
Now, there is an extension of the patio.
There is,
And what's the square footage of that extension?
I'm not sure, what was the exact square footage?
The total
It was-
patio area, it all in total is 980 square feet.
And what was the addition?
20 feet
The
plus
addition,
something.
I don't have that number off the top of my head,
10
but
by
it
20,
looks
6 by
like
20?
Let's see.
it's about 380 square feet, the extension.
So it's 300 feet disturbance.
Anthony will still review it for the stormwater,
Okay.
but that's
Okay.
up to you.
And is it near any of the neighbors? I mean, it's not 50 feet. They're putting 300 additional feet on there.
I'm looking at the site plan. There are two existing structures on the property? Is that right?
Correct.
Correct.
Okay, so this is not like their neighbor, that this is them. Okay. Seems,
Yeah,
Existing.
I have
as long as he
nothing.
meets
Yeah.
AI engineers bullet points,
Yep.
criteria.
It's right there. It's not near any of
This
his
is existing
neighbors.
houses, so he's putting
Yeah.
this here, and he's putting this on here.
Oh, I'm sure the stormwater improvement will be
Yeah.
Oh,
better.
great.
Some new
And I will say, I just did the same project in my house, and after being up many nights dealing with water, I haven't dealt with it since, so I'm a big believer in these projects.
Yeah. No, it looks like a nice solution.
Yeah. Okay, I'm willing to waive it if everyone else is.
I am.
I'm in
Okay.
favor.
Why not?
I did have
move that
one
we,
question really quick.
Yep, sure.
Yeah.
We saw Anthony's from AI Engineers, his memo today. One of the things he requested was he wanted us to provide a signed and sealed survey for review, but we're not doing any regrading on the property at all. We submitted an old survey and confirmed that with the Westchester County GIS. So we're wondering if we actually have to provide a brand new survey for this project if we're not doing any regrading.
I'll speak to Anthony.
I mean, he doesn't say he needs a new one.
Right.
But aren't you regrading it away from the house?
But the patio is,
He's doing an addition of the patio. You might want to see the topo.
I think you need to make Anthony happy.
Yeah.
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 Okay.
You know, for
But
the
it could be a
record,
matter of confirming the existing, well, I guess it's the same thing, you have to get a surveyor out one way or the other. Trying to save him the expense, but I get it.
All right, well, I move that we waive this project for site plan and subject to the satisfaction of Anthony's memo dated, whatever
July
that is.
29th, 2024.
There you go. I make the motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Right.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Good evening.
Good evening. Okay, the next item on our agenda is 4 Lyman Place, pre-submission conference for proposed rear addition and patio.
The Greg is the last one on the menu.
We're getting there pretty faster than I thought, actually.
Yeah, me too.
Now, somebody's going to spring up on.
There's the spirit.
Christine, is there somebody over
Lyman?
here for 20? Or we want to
Nobody here, nobody online?
go to the next one, then we'll call it at the end?
Okay.
Sure,
Okay.
sure. Okay, let's jump ahead to 5 Maplewood Avenue.
Steve a break.
Mr. Sharp.
I didn't think I was gonna be going till like 10 o'clock tonight. I saw that crowd.
Yeah.
Rabble.
Wait until, 3 months from now.
Oh, gosh. It's actually been a couple of months here since I've been here, so I think we're gonna do.
It's not here.
Oh, wait. Shit.
Uh-huh.
Hello. How are you? My name is Greg. Hello. My name is Greg Sharp. I'm an architect. I'm here representing Joseph and Jessica Capasso, who own 5 Maplewood Avenue in Dobbs Ferry. The original house was built in 1913, and the house has been renovated a number of times. And it has somewhat of a modern back and has a combination of old and new, but some of the existing conditions on the site are not ideal. And so the client is looking to do a reimagination of the entire site and property, moving some things around and adding some things as well that I think are beneficial to the lot and to the neighborhood. So the Capassos have met with their neighbors. They seem to have all agreement that this project is beneficial, and they are on board with that. Let me go slow. Sorry, let me see. Sorry. This fun stuff. Okay, so the existing house is this yellow house. Here are some of the neighboring houses, some of the architectural styles throughout the neighborhood, just showing some of the context of the existing condition, showing how the back has been renovated into a more contemporary approach, and the front of the house is much more original. It's a unique style. It is not really listed anywhere in all of the record. It's just referred to as old style. So I don't have a true sense of the actual architectural history of it. I've tried to pin it down and cannot. So the house is obviously when it was originally done, it has a bit of flair, but certain things about the house are certainly deficient, which we'll talk about in a minute. Okay. You can see that the house is basically 7 separate lots that consist of this one property. The current house has, how do I do this let's see. The current house is on this corner. There's a small patio in the back, and there's a driveway on this end with a very old, sort of beat-up two-car garage that we do plan on removing. The part of the property that says Lot 1 and Lot 2 is kind of like a little bit of a currently like a little bit of like a dead zone, a scrub zone on the property. So that's something else that we're going to help handle. One of the other conditions of the existing house was that there's really not a great front entry, which is if you could look down on this little corner, you know, when you have to walk in the house and there's like really nowhere to go. You're sort of like in this tight little box when you enter. So that was one of the other conditions that we wanted to accomplish with the site. So the properties basically consist of a number of different moves that we did in order to achieve what we wanted to achieve. First of all, we wanted to add a new front portico onto the house. Same issue, which is the house is, there's really nowhere to go when you enter. So the idea is to just create a little bit more room at the front entrance when you walk into the house. The other move is that we wanted to preserve this big, beautiful yard. We wanted to sort of make this yard and make this area in the back really just this natural sort of element, moving the garage out of that and just sort of having that be like a no-car zone and just sort of like a natural yard, and sort of to move all of the construction and the house and the building sort of in connection with each other. The concept is to basically build a garage building with a gym off of where this current Lot 1 is and provide access off of Scenic Drive. So to take advantage of the fact that it's a corner lot and we have the ability to access the property through Scenic Drive, we feel is beneficial because that part of the property is completely unutilized and is a great location to put the garage and the gym element and not disturb the yard. When we first started studying it, we studied just, you know, attaching the garage to the side of the house, but then the concept is that then we would destroy the entire yard. It would take up the entire site and it would just be kind of look like a much different type of project. It would look just like a massive project. So the idea was sort of just to keep it in connection with the house and separate it, but still have it, you know, do some things. I'm sorry, let me go back for a second. The other part of the project is obviously a connecting patio, a new driveway, and we're gonna put a new screened-in porch off of the yard. So while they're able to use your yard, also enjoy the patio to the side. A nice patio with an outdoor kitchen and a driveway, basketball hoop, very important, and a playground for his children. He has 3 children in the back corner. That would be impervious. It would have wood chips on it or something like that. It would not be a paved area. So everything in the back of the property should be a natural area. Showing the context of the floor plan with the site plan, showing some landscaping along with it, just showing you what's happening with the floor plan. You could see the 2-car garage, and you could see the little gym element that's off the front of that, and with the patio as well. So the upstairs, there's no real change to the existing house. Now, the only changes are, like I said, adding the screened-in porch, replacing the windows in the existing porch with just better insulated windows. It currently has like thin, like storm-style windows from a previous renovation. So we just want to put in regular, you know, nicer windows. And then this front entryway, new entrance element that we want to do. On the roof of the screened-in porch, we would just provide a series of doors out onto the roof of that as a deck. And that sort of seems to go onto the nature of the architecture of the house. There's a porch on one side. We're basically adding an element to the other side of the house that sort of mimics that. Once again, pushing it back to the back of the site, so that it could be, so that it can leave the front of the site better. So this is the garage building, the garage gym building, that is supposed to have some of the elements of the existing house. It is also somewhat of a traditional style, something new from myself, but something that's in context with the neighborhood and in context with the house as well. So lighting schedule. So this just shows the elevations of the house. I wanted to do a high stone base around the house, and then some new siding and some new windows. Architecturally, it takes some of the elements of the existing house and some just traditional elements. This is the front of the house showing the new front entryway. This is the porch to the side, and this shows the new windows that we would put on the existing screened-in porch. And then this shows the relationship of the existing house to the new garage slash garage gym addition. The idea would be to create a room, this gym room would have operable doors that could open up onto the patio as well. This just shows the other elevations, the rear elevations, showing the new windows on that element, some new stone walls. And this is the elevation that you would see from Scenic Drive. So once again, the concept is to not face the garage doors to the street, but to have it look at a face of the building and something more landscaped. So the idea is to sort of make a little bit of a driveway court in order to hide the garage doors and not make it look like that. So this is something keeping the scale of it. As my conversations with the client was, it wasn't really practical to just sort of like recreate the same roof, because that roof is a highly unique roof. It has 3-foot overhangs. It has barrel vaults that intersect them. It was not really possible architecturally to just sort of mimic that on the gym building. So we came up with something that still looks traditional and nice. The idea is also to recolor the house. So we would be going with just a different color scheme for the existing house and the new house. So the client wants to change the yellow that was on the house originally. This just shows some of the context of materials and palettes and colors and concepts of sort of what we're talking about. We're really talking about a garage that's going to look something like this with the windows above, the garage doors set in, the color scheme being more on the cream side with these taupey gutters. This is, more or less the color palette that we're going to change the house to. So slightly less harsh with the yellow and some of the materials that we plan on using. The windows, window details, lighting details, and just some, rendered images that are, a work in progress. They'll be, updated for the next presentation as well. But this gives you a good idea about what is happening with the project and what it looks like, and the architecture that's happening.
Both the planning and engineering memos that were just released have quite long lists of issues to be resolved. Have you been able to look at that yet?
I took a quick look at it. I did not get a chance to go through it. It was quite a long list, but I didn't see anything that jumped out on me that seemed really difficult or impossible. It just seemed like these are things that need to be addressed and worked through the process. there's obviously, this is not the time, it's just the initial presentation, but, part of it is, we want to go through all those comments, study the comments, figure out what the correct responses are. I didn't really have a particular opinion on one or the other. We've had preliminary discussions with Dan and believe that everything we're doing is as of right. We don't feel that we're impeding on any of the rules, and so we feel this is basically within the town code, and that we are following the rules that are presented to us. But some of the comments are like the house is a 2.5-story house. I mean, that's an existing house. I mean, we're not touching that, so it's nothing. I mean, we're not renovating the house to make it a 2-story house. That part of the house has not changed. Whether or not one of the issues was whether or not the town could say whether or not you can have a front on both sides. And the point is that the front of our house is clearly on Maplewood. It's got the front door there. It's been there for, since 1913. That's been the front of the house. So, we're not changing the front of the house and saying now the front of the house is on Scenic. I mean, Scenic is clearly the side of the house. So, we feel that we're within our right to put the driveway on that side and be able to access it. And by the way, it's far less of a driveway than driving through the house. And like I said, I think it's beneficial to the neighbors to have this nice green space in the back that creates this nice yard without driving through it, without adding all the bulk on the property over there. We're sort of like putting it into somewhat of a dead zone on Scenic. And so I actually think it's in a good location.
No, I like the project, and I think that section of Scenic is straight, so the sightlines are probably good. I think the existing garage always looked a little messy over there and wasteful of real estate, so I completely understand them wanting to make that a lawn and make better use of that. That makes perfect sense to me as well.
Yeah.
We just need you to address the lists of our professional planner, and engineer, and
Yep.
I mean, I'm speaking for myself. Please, other members of the board, speak up.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
I'm curious, part of this property is in Hastings? Is it all the?
No, it's not in Hastings. It's near Hastings.
Oh, near it, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So.
Which is the other side of Maplewood.
Yeah, one of the comments was that we need to notify them. No, I'm not sure. Is that something that we need to do? We need to notify Hastings? Or my question is that just a courtesy situation
No,
or?
it's something that usually the village does.
Okay, yeah. I don't want to notify Hastings.
So it's a really beautiful scheme in a lot of ways.
And then the other comment was something about the history. And like I said, apparently this house is not designated any historical landmark. It's got no historical designation, so we're not sure what we would need to do. We don't think we're disturbing 10,000 square feet of land. I mean, we're basically, we're just maintaining the yard and keeping it. So this is a single family residence. I don't know why we would have to go through the county for things like that.
A lot of the comments deal with the documentation and the application itself.
Okay.
So I think if you respond to the comments and provide information that you're not disturbing 10,000 square feet of land, then we'll know how to notify the county.
Okay.
So I think, and that was with a lot of the questions that you were just responding to, a lot of them I think will be dealt with once the proper documentation is submitted.
9,999 square feet, not 10,000.
Yeah. As I said, I think it's a really beautiful scheme in a lot of ways, and I like the idea of the way you placed the garage and made this other patio space and so on. I have kind of two questions, one of which I'd like, we don't have to get into here, which is whether or not the owners considered building an accessory dwelling unit in the garage, and we can talk about that off, because I'm behind that effort, and I'm curious what the math is that people are going through.
Yeah.
So if did that discussion even happen at any point about
Are
they aware that
I think they are aware. As you know, Joe is on the zoning board, so he's pretty aware of what's going on and this stuff. But,
So
you
then
know,
maybe they just didn't want to do it.
yeah, I think that he wants a garage and a gym.
Okay.
So, I don't think-
That's up to him.
Yeah.
I was curious if there
Yeah.
was some threshold thing, like, you
Yeah.
know, because we're trying.
No,
to
I don't,
figure out-
I'm not sure. Like, he obviously, listen, these are 7, but they're small lots. So I'm not even sure what the legality is. Like, could you build 7 buildings on this? Like, could you build 7 houses on this? I'm not sure.
Yeah, but, so, the other point I would just make is that I do think, can you tell me what, because I feel like the one thing that jumped out at me even before you mentioned it, the one way in which it doesn't maybe do something it might have done is in the roof form.
Yeah.
And so, because the one thing the existing house has is this very distinct, these deep overhangs and this chamfered end to the eaves, right? So why was that something you couldn't do in your little building to sort of make the roofs?
Well, we tried to do some things that match it, as in like we tried to like come around on the ends. So we tried to do something where we do have an overhang, we do come around on the ends. But look at this thing. This thing is like 3.5 feet out. I mean, it's 3, and it has these barrel vaulted windows. I mean, I could not find a reference for this. If you have a reference, any historical reference, I mean, it's an old building, so clearly they did it.
I'm not speaking from a historical point of view. I'm speaking just from a compositional point of view of having the little building look like the baby of the big building.
It would be way too big. It's a 3.5. Yeah, the
There's something
proportion.
in between 3.5 feet and, right? I mean, I'm not saying you have to mimic.
It would
the
look a little
depth.
weird to have a sort of baby building with a 2-foot overhang, don't you think?
Yeah, but a bigger than typical overhang. And the chamfered end to the eaves is also one of the really distinctive features of those elevations, and I don't see why that wouldn't be able to be done.
So I did, like I said, it does have this wraparound on the sides.
Right, I saw
And
that.
that's sort of an homage to
Yeah.
that feature. I just think it just kind of looked silly. It was like too big a roof on a little building. So
I'm not changing but I'm not changing the side.
I really
I'm talking about
struggled. Yeah.
chamfering-
Yeah.
I'm talking about chamfering the end,
Oh, you mean put this, like the snub nose, the Dutch nose on it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we did look at that. I could certainly look at that again. I don't think that is, I would certainly study that. That's certainly not, I'll take another look at that. I believe that we did look at it at one point, and for some reason, it just didn't look that great, but I think that is something that we can probably do. We can add that little chamfer.
Look at it, I'm not actually, believe it or not, into design, like, you're a good designer. I'm not into like redesigning your house. I'm just curious if there was,
It is
it
is a wacky roof, jeez.
it is, but it's also a beautiful house. All that wackiness is kind of pretty cool. I'm not saying that the 3-foot, you do an overhang like that, but
I mean, I'll yeah.
I don't know.
No, I'll definitely take another look
Yeah,
at that. I think that we
up to
we went through a number of studies and things like that. I think at some point I had a modern barn design. I think that was did not get green lighted.
What does the framing look like in the attic of this thing? The roof rafters. Really bizarre.
Good. So do we need to, we're not calling for a public hearing.
No, I think we needed one more pre-submission conference unless
It's still
people
being
disagree.
modified, it sounds like.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, so I'll work through the comments with the town, and I'll engage the town in that process, and I guess come back and see you in the beginning of September.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, good. It's a nice project.
Good.
Thanks.
Very nice.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
We're Lyman.
Did the other line?
Yeah,
line-
did anybody, well, nobody's here, know anybody online? So I guess let's postpone this until the next meeting?
Just continue it, I guess, yeah, to the
Okay.
next meeting. I'll reach out to the applicant, see what happens.
Okay. Is there anything else we need to discuss before we adjourn? I propose adjourn. Do I have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.